Hi, this is Kara from KB Crochet. This tutorial will show you how to make a basic single crochet square. My finished square is approximately 5¼ inches by about 5¼ inches. It may not be an exact perfect square, but for the projects you'll use this for, that'll be just fine. I'm going to use an H-hook and worsted weight yarn. The exact yarn I'm using is Red Heart Super Saver in beige. To begin, you're going to join your yarn to your hook with a slip knot, and you're going to chain 21. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. You're going to skip that first chain after your hook and insert your yarn into that second chain. Then you'll single crochet 1, and you'll continue to single crochet in each chain remaining. So there's 2, here's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, oops, yarn split there, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. At the end of that row, you'll simply chain 1, turn, then you're not going to stitch into the chain, you're going to stitch into that first chain there. So you'll skip what looks like the first one, but it's really not, and insert into the first stitch. And when you insert in the first stitch, you need to make sure you get both loops at the top of that stitch, not just the front or the back. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, oops, yarn split again, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. That last one can sometimes be a little hard to get in your first early rows. It'll kind of curl around a little bit. Make sure you don't miss it, or you won't have the right number of stitches. So you now have 2 rows of 20 single crochets. You're going to repeat that chain 1, turn, and single crochet in each stitch across 18 more times until you have 20 rows of 20 single crochets. At the end, you're going to cut your yarn, leaving a tail long enough to weave in. You're going to yarn over and simply pull the whole tail through that last stitch into a knot. You're then going to want to weave in both this end and your beginning end. You'll do that by, oops, that's not a good grab. Let's go this way. By weaving that end in back through your stitches. This is important because if you don't weave this in securely, your entire project could become unraveled as you use it or when you wash it, and you certainly don't want that. I will admit this is my absolute least favorite part of crocheting, but it's a necessary evil. So what you're going to do is just find some of those loops across, and you'll just keep pulling your yarn through them. What I typically do to make sure it's super secure is I will weave through in this direction for several stitches. For example, I just did a weaved in through 3 stitches in this direction. So we'll go 2 more, so we've done at least 5 in one direction. And if you're having trouble getting your hook through because your stitches are tight enough, you can always hook down for this part. For example, if I've crocheted something with my H hook, when I go to weave in the ends, I may grab my G hook just because it's just a little bit smaller, so it may sneak into those stitches just a little bit easier. When you're beginning, anything that makes it easier is a plus. So Now I've weaved through 5 stitches in this direction. I'm going to go ahead and turn it, and I'm going to weave down a few loops. So I've got a yarn split there, lovely. So that I'm in another row. Go down 1 row, 2 rows, whatever you want to do, and then I'll weave back in the other direction for several stitches. And by changing directions, it just makes it a little bit more secure, so it's less likely to come undone. When you finish your squares, you're probably going to want to do something with them. You can edge them and use them as coasters. You can join them together and make them into a scarf, or if you're really ambitious, an afghan. If you want to do smaller or larger squares, that's very easy. All you would need to do to make a smaller square would be to either do fewer stitches across and fewer rows up. You could do 15 stitches across, 15 rows. Or you could do, even if for a much smaller square, you could do 10, or whatever number you wanted. For a larger square, you might want to bump it up to 30. It's really a pretty easy pattern to change. You'll just do the same number of rows that you do stitches across. And again, that may give you more of a rectangle shape depending on how tight or how loose your stitches are. Again, that's something that's easy to do. If you want a perfect square, you would just need to determine if you need to add or subtract a few rows. There's really no set number that you have to use. So once you've weaved that through, stitches in both directions, you're then just going to take your scissors and snip the yarn. And now you have a finished single crochet square. Now, there is another option for finishing this square. You can take another color of yarn. This is Red Heart Super Saver in Cherry Red. And I'm going to use this to put a border on. For a beginner, we're going to do just a single crochet border. Again, this is completely optional. You can use a different color of yarn, or you can use the same color of yarn. It's entirely up to you. But this just adds a nice little finishing touch, and you're going to join this with a slip stitch. Now, a slip stitch just means you're going to take that end, insert into one of your corner stitches. You're going to take your yarn and pull the yarn through that stitch and through the loop on your hook. You'll then chain 1 and single crochet in your first stitch and in your second stitch, and in each stitch all the way across the top. And you can use any colors you like for this. These just happen to be 2 that I had on hand. The edging will not only add some contrast if you use another color, but if you are going to sew these together, it gives you a nice edge that you can use for joining. There are several different ways you can join your squares, and I will have a video about that posted in the near future. Okay, once you get to the edge, you're then going to do chain 1. Now the sides are a little bit more tricky. You're going to, I skipped the first one, and then, but whatever you need to make your edges look how you want them, you're going to single crochet down the side, 1 in each row. Now some of those edges might be a little tight, especially if they're not the chain. So you make sure you get, so you're on the edge, but you don't want to go too far in. Here's 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. 13. 14. 15. 16. 17. 18. And 19. Remember, because we skipped that first one, and your chain up there will kind of count as your first one. So you'll have 19 down this side. Then to go across the edge, we're going to chain 1, and then for my bottom, I will go ahead and do 20 across because those are easily marked. So you'll do 1, yarn split there, and that's a stubborn one there. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Oh, yarn split again. And I'm going to chain 1. Again, on the sides, I skip that first one. You don't have to skip that first one, I just do. On the sides, the stitches aren't as clearly marked, so for me that's always just been easier. And you're going to just crochet, single crochets up your side, 1 in each row again. So you'll have either 19 or 20, depending on if you choose to skip that first one. And there are other stitches that you can use, for the edging as you get better and learn more stitches. This is just the most basic edging. So for a beginner, it's perfect. And again, I like to do the edging because then when I go to join them, I've got stitches all the way around already. I don't have to worry about trying to stitch into these sides. Okay, when you get to the top, you're going to chain 1, find that first stitch up there. And so you're gonna skip the side of it, don't join into the side. And you'll pull up that loop. You'll then pull through that first stitch, pull through the loop on your hook. You've now joined it with a slip stitch. Going to cut your yarn, pull that tail through your loop, and once you weave in that end, you are all finished with your square. Again, you can make several of these and join them together. You can edge them like this and use them as a coaster. It's entirely up to you what you'd like to do with your finished squares, but this is, again, a great first project for a beginning crocheter. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this tutorial. Please feel free to leave any questions you may have about this pattern or about crochet in general in the comment section of this video. Good luck and happy crocheting!